I'm the guy who's going to beat Randy Orton this Monday for the WWE Championship. I'm the guy that's going to head into Survivor Series, WWE Champion. And I'm the guy who's going to show you who the secondary champion really is.
What's going on, YouTube? Essentially a place to be. Children, Mr. A&E. Better give you guys another SmackDown review. Friday Night SmackDown from November 11th, 2020. So here's the deal here. I know the big news around everything is going to the release of Zelina Vega that just happened, and of course it was very messed up. It's very unfortunate what happened to Zelina Vega. I'm going to talk more extensively in the No Gimmicks Needed Wrestling podcast, so make sure you guys check that out. The podcast has been mostly done already, so it should be up Monday morning. By the time either Sunday night or Monday morning, and then of course the podcast snippets are going to be up in the morning usually as well, so you guys can take your time to check that out to get our detailed opinion about Zelina Vega and everything like that. But the show starts off with Roman Reigns coming out, and Roman Reigns is trying to build things for Survivor Series and talk about how he's going to beat Randy Orton, which is a match I do not want to see, even though Randy Orton is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. But Drew McIntyre comes out from Raw. I'm going to tell you right now, this would have been an awesome moment. One, if there was a crowd. And two, this would have been an awesome moment if they had just stood apart for a year or something like that. Because, you know, when Raw or SmackDown stars overlap from different shows, it feels more special when they've been so apart for so long, such as 2003 when they first did the draft. And then when superstars, you know, intermingle, that's when the Royal Rumble was 15 Raw, 15 SmackDown, it felt fresher because we was doing the draft for a whole year and a half. A year so far, so that right there, it didn't really feel special. It just Drew McIntyre. I was like, okay, we see Raw, SmackDown stars go back and forth every week, but just the tease, the storyline, that's the best thing. So then Drew McIntyre tells Roman Reigns that, yo, you're not going up against Randy Orton, you're going up against me, because I'm going to win the WWE Championship come this Monday on Raw. And then Jey Uso come out there running and talk about some, hey yo, Uso, man, who are you, Drew? You don't come here disrespecting us like that. You don't be talking to us like that. Man, no, you know, so you about to get handled, something like that. So Roman just backs off Jey Uso, trying to cool him down as they easily walk outside the ring. And then, you know, Drew's just standing there because Jey Uso challenged Drew McIntyre to a match tonight. Well, backstage, Roman Reigns didn't like that too much. It's fussing at Jey Uso, talking about stuff. We talk about this us. We talk about this we. You know what I'm saying? I'm the head of the table. I'm the Universal Champion. I'm the one who makes the decisions. You don't come out here to talk all that stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? You don't come out here and you don't come embarrassing. There is no us. It's me. I'm the head. I make the calls. So Roman Reigns was obviously pissed about that. But we're still going to get our match later between Jey Uso and Drew McIntyre, which turned to an unsanctioned match, which there's no point in putting a stipulation on there because ain't nothing really happened that will cause any unsanctioned. But I guess since Drew's on Raw, SmackDown's not responsible for what happens to Drew McIntyre. But trust me, we'll get to that later. Intercontinental Championship, Sami Zayn taking on Apollo Crews. Haven't seen Apollo Crews in some weeks, so now Apollo Crews comes back. Sami cuts a promo in the beginning of the match, putting over Apollo Crews actually in a good way, and saying that I had no time to prepare for this matchup, and they're trying to make a conspiracy of trying to have me lose the championship right before Survivor Series, so I don't have my match against Bobby Lashley. And for a slim chance, for a slim moment, I was sitting there like, oh, please don't let Apollo Crews beat Sami Zayn so we can do Apollo versus Bobby Lashley again at Survivor Series. I'd rather see Sami Zayn versus Bobby Lashley, to be completely honest with you. So Apollo dominates for most of the match, but on the outside, Sami Zayn pulls up the ring skirt and knocks Apollo down into the little metal guardrail and ties his foot up in there and causes a countout. The match is not that very long, but Sami Zayn wins by countout. So obviously this is going to be a rivalry going on to after Survivor Series, but this is just enough heat and momentum to get Sami Zayn over and, you know, hated basically until Survivor Series. Another pointless thing on SmackDown, which was the theme of the night, Sasha Banks comes out looking great, as I should say, in their leopard, but she really comes out to virtually basically calling out Carmella for what happened last week, but then barely comes out just mouthing at Sasha Banks as if this rivalry should bend over, and she doesn't have a microphone so you can't hear what she's saying, and then behind, Carmella attacks Sasha Banks again and then gives her the face drop. So it's really sucked. It was the same thing from last week, except just Bayley was coming down opposed to just looking very angry in the ring after her matchup. Basically what it was. Otis is going against Dolph Ziggler after Bobby Roode and Dolph Ziggler was talking about Otis backstage as if he wasn't right there eating in the catering area. So basically, Otis just dominates Dolph Ziggler here and wins the matchup. Backstage, Chad Gable is back, and then he gives Otis a little pamphlet talking about the Gable, was it the Alpha Academy, and so this is Chad Gable's new gimmick. I hope they don't, he's trying to motivate Otis, and I hope Chad Gable and Otis don't become a tag team, because what was the point of breaking these tag teams up to make them somewhat single stars to put them back into a tag team? It's just that you could just kept Otis and Tucker together for Heavy Machinery. You don't need to make makeshift tag teams when you have real tag teams. That's how WWE does. They just break this shit up, and it's doing terrible shit to SmackDown. But the only highlight of SmackDown was the no holds barred match, the final chapter in the storyline. It coming to an abrupt end because, first of all, it's been dragged on too long. This thing has been going on for 2 months too long, honestly. Actually, I'm lying, 4 months too long, because this thing should have ended at the Extreme Rules Horror Show, and then it didn't. But then it did SummerSlam. It really should have ended. But that was August. So September, October, November. Yeah, this is going on 2 months too long, okay? And they're doing the final chapter between Rey Mysterio and Seth Rollins, no holds barred. Great matchup by these two. It reminded me when Seth Rollins and Rey Mysterio was doing no holds barred match. It reminded me of Jericho Mysterio no holds barred match, where it was like good wrestling and they implemented a little bit of weapons on there, but it was more so it was. It was just a perfect balance of it. It wasn't just no holds barred. We just doing weapon shots and all kinds of stuff. It was good wrestling in there. Seth Rollins brings out the base of the steel steps, but Ray puts some more in there. There's a slide into the ropes and does a splash to Seth Rollins on the steps. There's a table, and Seth Rollins power bombs Mysterio off the top rope through the table, but Mysterio still kicks out. So there's a time in the matchup where it looked like Seth Rollins was going to win, and then Murphy comes in and like he's going to help him. By the way, Aaliyah and Dominic and Ray's wife is on the outside, and all of a sudden Murphy hits Seth Rollins with a knee, and then he screws him over, and then he goes to the outside, and Seth Rollins is on the second rope. You see the 619 come a mile away, and talk about why he do that. So as Ray's trying to go for the 619, he slips off the ropes and botches. I'm telling you right now. I gotta find that clip on the internet, but he slips off the ropes and botches, but then he gets back up and does it again, and then hits the frog splash off the top, wins the matchup, and then it's the end of Seth Rollins, it's the end of everything, it's all rushed, and then Mysterio says, you want my answer, you want my respect, you want my blessing, well, you take my hand, shake my hand. So he shakes his hand, shakes Dominic's hand, hugs his mama, and then Aaliyah gets to get her man. I'm like, this is not going to work. After this, this whole thing sucked, honestly, and it was forced. You could tell the storyline came to an abrupt end because one, they needed to do it, and it should have ended months ago, but they just dragged this thing on. So we got to see what's next with the Mysterio family and Murphy. If Aaliyah and his family still gonna be an on-screen character, and what's gonna happen with Dominic? Because the whole thing with Seth Rollins was the whole thing, but he probably should just find us to go to NXT. So Adam Pearce is backstage. So telling the time we gotta get ready for another triple threat match, another one. Going fight DJ Khaled here, going to see who's going to qualify for the Women's Survivor Series team, and it's a matchup between Natalya, Liv Morgan, Tamina, and then coming up behind Adam Pearce, it's Chelsea Green. So Chelsea Green is back. She's on the main roster here on SmackDown, making her SmackDown debut. So now it turned into a fatal four-way matchup, and the winner is going to go on to join with Bianca Belair and Ruby Riott on Team SmackDown. Well, in the middle of the match, Chelsea Green breaks her hand. Look, she breaks her wrist, like her left wrist. Woman can't catch a break, because I'm pretty sure Chelsea Green being in this matchup, she should have been the one joining the team. So since she didn't win the matchup, Liv Morgan ends up winning the matchup, which reminds me that I think they called it honorable here and had to go with Liv Morgan to join Ruby Riott. And it's a shame that Chelsea Green just cannot seem to catch a break at all. And stop doing triple threat matches. Y'all don't need to keep doing all this shit. Just do regular one-on-one matches and then just throw the women on the team. Okay? Because it's all about Bianca Belair right now anyway. Main event time, as it's time for the unsanctioned match. Drew McIntyre taking on Jey Uso, and honestly, the match is pretty good, but it didn't need to be an unsanctioned match. But I guess they put that stipulation on there because just in case anything happens to Drew tonight, then when he goes match with Randy Orton, he can't blame it on going to SmackDown. It was his fault. It was his choice. Blah blah. But that doesn't happen. Even though Roman Reigns comes down to stare at Jey Uso to kind of like motivate him, that doesn't do nothing for Drew McIntyre. Doesn't intimidate him at all. Hits the Claymore kick on Jey Uso for the win. Stands there looking strong at Roman Reigns, and he says, "Look, no championship, no invitation." So and walks back. So I really want to see the Roman Reigns versus the Tribal Chief Roman Reigns versus the Claymore Drew McIntyre with the countdown and everything, because it's so much better this year than it was when they was going at it at WrestleMania 35. It almost kind of reminds me of like a Batista John Cena type thing, where it's like, okay, that match in 2003 sucked, you know what I'm saying? But Batista versus John Cena in 2006 is something completely different, you know what I'm saying? So that's how it feels. But that was SmackDown. SmackDown gets a thumbs down from me this week. It was boring. Only one good matchup with Seth Rollins and Rey Mysterio, even though the storyline is just rushed, which it kind of hurts it a little bit, to be honest with you. So that's what it gets for me. Post any comments down below how you guys feel about SmackDown. Hopefully by the time Raw comes around, the mail will come around. I can have my Raw shirt. I got to call WWE and see what happened to my Raw shirt. I know y'all keep seeing the SmackDown shirt every week, but y'all got to see the Raw shirt so I can review Raw and stuff like that. So let's see just what happens personally. So, post any comments down below. Hit the like button because it really helps out the video. And hit the subscribe button for more WWE content right here on NC Studios. Once again, it's NC place to be. Children staying D. And the Nerd Coalition is out.